My name is Alma, and I am 58 years old. For 20 years, my world has been my daughter, Elise. I thought I had done everything right, raising her with strong values, even if it meant hiding my own truth to protect her. But last week, sitting in a cafe listening to her fiancé Gregory explain with a cold smile why I was not welcome at their wedding, I realized my greatest fear had come true. I had protected her from the wrong world. Before I tell you how a simple mother in worn-out sneakers became the uninvited guest of honor, I wonder about you. Where are you listening from right now? If you have ever felt invisible because of how you look, I hope you will stay with me. Please say hello in the comments, and if you would like to join me on this unexpected journey, hit that subscribe button. My life, for a very long time, has been quiet. I live in the same 3-bedroom cottage-style house that Peter and I bought just before Elise was born. The paint is chipping a little on the shutters, and the garden out back is more about hardy vegetables than fancy flowers. I drive a sedan that is 12 years old, but it gets me to my volunteer shifts at the local library and to the grocery store just fine. Most evenings you will find me with a book, a cup of tea, and the quiet hum of the ceiling fan. It is a simple life, and for the longest time, it was a deeply content one. My greatest joy was my weekly dinner with Elise. She moved into the city after college, got a job in marketing, and was always so busy. But she never missed our Tuesday night calls, and she came home every other Sunday. She would fuss over me asking if I needed money if the house was too much upkeep. Last Christmas, she secretly paid for a new water heater. I found the receipt in my mailbox. I did not have the heart to tell her I had already arranged for it, so I let her have that win. I quietly put the amount she spent into a separate savings account for her. That is what mothers do, right? We let them think they are taking care of us. Then she brought Gregory home. He was handsome in a sharp, polished way. He wore a watch that looked heavier than my first car. He was polite, but his eyes were like two little cameras scanning the living room, the furniture, the art on the walls, which consists mostly of Elise's childhood drawings, and my pressed flowers. He talked about his work in private equity, his 5-year plan, his golf handicap. He mentioned the wedding would be at the Grandview Manor, the most exclusive venue in the state. He said it like he was stating the weather, but I heard the price tag in his voice. Elise watched him speak with this glowing pride that made my heart ache. It was the pride of possession, not of partnership. A few days after that visit, my friend and financial manager Robert called. We have spoken every Tuesday morning for 15 years. He was going over some quarterly reports from the family trust. My voice was low as I deadheaded my marigolds on the back porch. Yes, Robert, that sounds fine. Proceed with the coastal property acquisition we discussed. The dividend reinvestment is perfect. Thank you. I hung up to find Elise had let herself in the front door. Who was that, Mom? She asked. Oh, just a wrong number, honey, I said, wiping soil from my hands. She nodded. Not really listening, already talking about Gregory's new car. She did not see the envelope on the table behind me from a private bank. The thick, creamy paper, a silent testament to the world I kept at bay. Peter and I made a choice before Elise was even born. He came from old money, I from comfortable academia. We saw how wealth distorted people, how it became their personality. We wanted our child to know the value of a dollar earned, of a kindness given without expectation. We wanted her to be judged by her character, not her trust fund. So we lived modestly. When Peter passed from a sudden heart attack, I doubled down on that promise. Our wealth was a tool for security and quiet good, not for show. It also, I admit, became a filter. Anyone who loved Elise for herself would not be scared away by a modest mother in a simple house. I thought I was so clever. When Elise called, breathless, to tell me Gregory had proposed with a 3-carat diamond at a rooftop restaurant, I cried tears of joy for her happiness, but that night alone I cried tears of a different kind. A deep, unsettled feeling had taken root in my stomach. It was the feeling of a test being administered and a terrible suspicion that the person I loved most in the world was about to fail it. The dinner was at Le Soleil, a restaurant where the portions are tiny and the prices are not listed on the menu. Gregory's mother Eleanor was there. She was a symphony of taupe and gold, her jewelry clinking softly with every movement. She smiled at me with the warmth of a museum docent. "So Alma Elise tells us you volunteer." She began slicing into her asparagus. "How civic-minded of you. It must be so rewarding to have so much free time." I smiled. "It keeps me connected to the community. I love introducing children to books." "I see," she said, her tone implying she did not see at all. "And Peter, he was in education." "He was a literature professor," I said. "Ah," she nodded, as if that explained everything. She turned to Gregory. "Darling, have you and Elise decided on the champagne for the toast? We simply must have the Dom Perignon, the Euro 8 vintage. Nothing else makes a statement." Gregory patted Elise's hand. "Whatever you and Mom think is best." The conversation swirled around me like fog. Discussions of floral designers from Denmark, of a 12-piece orchestra versus a DJ of designer gowns with waiting lists longer than a pregnancy. I sat quietly in my best department store dress, feeling like a brown sparrow at a gathering of peacocks. Then Eleanor turned her focus back to me. "Alma, dear, we are so touched you want to be involved. Given the scale of things, every bit helps. We were thinking perhaps you could handle the more homespun elements, the welcome bags for the out-of-town guests. You could bake some of those lovely cookies Elise talks about. It would add such a personal rustic touch and save a fortune on the caterer's petit four." I felt my cheeks grow warm. I looked at Elise. She was studying her napkin. Gregory was nodding, a magnanimous look on his face. "It is a brilliant idea, Mom, a way for Alma to contribute meaningfully." "I contributed by raising the remarkable woman your son is marrying," I wanted to say, but I just took a sip of water and said, "I will think about it." The drive home that night was silent. A few days later, Elise came over, tension pinching the corners of her eyes. "We went dress shopping with Eleanor," she said. "It was intense. I suggested we look at a few boutiques downtown. Some lovely local designers." Eleanor interrupted me. "Oh, Alma, no. This is a Grandview Manor wedding. It requires a certain pedigree. She has an appointment at Vera Wang next week. Do not worry about the cost. Gregory is covering it." She then looked me up and down, a faint smile on her lips. "You know, for the mother of the bride, it is often best to choose something understated. Perhaps a nice suit. And we were thinking for seating you might be more comfortable with some of the aunts and cousins further back. The front rows are really for immediate family and Gregory's business associates." Elise said nothing. She just looked at the floor. In that moment, I did not see my brave, opinionated daughter. I saw a scared young woman trying to fit into a glass slipper that was cutting off her circulation. I went to bed that night feeling a hollow ache. This was not just snobbery. This was an erasure. They were politely, systematically editing me out of the picture because my frame did not match their gilded album. I called Robert the next morning. My voice, usually so steady, trembled. "Robert, I think I made a mistake." "What happened, Alma?" "I tried to build a moat to keep the dragons out," I whispered. "But I think I locked my daughter in a tower instead, and now the dragons are inside the gates." The wedding invitation arrived, a heavy square of ivory cardstock with elegant raised lettering. It felt like a contract in my hands. Elise delivered it personally, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Gregory wants to talk to you, Mom, about the logistics. Can you meet us for coffee tomorrow, the little place on Maple Street?" I knew then. This was not a conversation about table numbers or song choices. This was a verdict. The next afternoon, the sun was too bright, the cafe too cheerful with its folk music and smell of cinnamon. Gregory was already there wearing a crisp polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Elise sat beside him, her hands wrapped tightly around her latte cup. "Alma, thank you for coming." Gregory began, his voice smooth as the marble tabletop. "We are in the final stretch now. Everything has to be perfect." I nodded, waiting. He leaned forward slightly, adopting a tone of confidential concern. We have over 200 confirmed guests. CEOs, senators, people who shape the world. Elise and I will be moving in. Image in these circles is not everything. It is the only thing. My heart began a slow, heavy thud. We have given this a lot of thought, Elise added quietly, still not looking at me. Gregory placed his hand over hers. The thing is, Alma, your presentation, the way you choose to live, it raises questions. Questions we do not have time to answer on the most important day of our lives. The last thing we want is for people to be distracted, whispering about why the mother of the bride looks like she just came from a yard sale. The air left my lungs. I stared at him. So we have a solution, he continued, a cold, practiced smile touching his lips. We think it is best if you attend the smaller family-only brunch the day after the wedding. That way you can be comfortable, be yourself, and we can ensure the wedding itself is seamless. Beggars have no place at a wedding, as the saying goes. We just want everything to be perfect for our future. The old adage weaponized. My own child sat next to him, a silent accomplice. The betrayal was a physical pain, sharp and cold in my chest. I looked directly at Elise. Do you believe that? Do you believe I have no place at your wedding? Tears welled in her eyes. She looked from Gregory's expectant face to mine, trapped. It is just for one day, Mom. It is how things have to be. Please understand. In that moment, I saw the full cost of my deception. I had not prepared her to value substance over shine. I had only hidden the shine, making the cheap glitter Gregory offered seem like the sun itself. A profound calm settled over me, washing away the hurt, leaving something clear and hard in its wake. The test was over. They had failed. Catastrophically. I stood up. My movements were slow, deliberate. I placed the beautiful, heavy wedding invitation on the table between them. All right, you have made your decision. I reached for my simple canvas bag. Now I have made mine. I turned and walked out of the cafe. The bell on the door jingled behind me, a ridiculously merry sound. I did not look back. I drove home in a silence so complete I could hear the blood roaring in my ears, not with anger, but with a terrifying, focused clarity. The time for being Alma, the simple, unassuming widow, was over. It was time for the woman Peter married, the woman who sat on boards and directed fortunes, to step forward. My daughter needed to see who her mother really was, and more importantly, she needed to see who she was about to marry. My first stop was not home. It was the sleek downtown office of Winslow and Associates. Robert's secretary knew me, of course, and her eyes widened slightly at my appearance. My same simple dress, my determined face. She ushered me right in. Robert took one look at me and stood up from his enormous desk. Alma, what is wrong? They uninvited me from the wedding, Robert. My daughter's fiancé told me beggars have no place there. His face, usually so composed, flushed with anger. He muttered a word Peter never would have approved of. Tell me everything. I did. The dinner, the dress shopping, the coffee shop. When I finished, his jaw was tight. What do you want to do? The trust, I began, my voice steady now cold. The $10 million discretionary fund. The one we set up as a wedding gift to be released after the ceremony. The one Gregory has been subtly counting on to launch his new venture fund, Robert said, connecting the dots. Cancel it, immediately. Freeze every asset, every line of credit, anything that has Elise's name connected to it or that Gregory could potentially access through her. I want it legally airtight by the end of today. Robert was already reaching for the phone. Consider it done. Next, I said, pulling out my personal phone. I need the number for Michael Sorrentino at First United Private Bank. Robert recited it. I dialed. Michael, it is Alma. How are you? Yes, thank you. I am calling about a loan application you are reviewing for a Gregory Thorne. For the venture capital fund, yes. I want you to withdraw it. Immediately. No, there is no discussion. You will cite insufficient collateral and elevated risk. You have my word that my own holdings will remain with you. Thank you, Michael. I hung up. One more call. I dialed the direct line for the general manager of the Grandview Manor. Eleanor had boasted that Gregory's father knew the owner. What she did not know was that the ownership group was a shell company, and the majority shareholder was a foundation I chaired. Charles Alma here. I understand you have a booking for the Thorne wedding next Saturday. Yes. I am afraid there has been a significant issue. A breach of contract morality clause. You need to cancel it. Today, offer them the Riverside Pavilion at the old rate if you wish, but the manor is unavailable. Cite a catastrophic plumbing failure. Thank you for your discretion, Charles. I put the phone down. My hands were not shaking. They were steady. Robert watched me, a mix of horror and admiration on his face. Now, I said, standing up, I need a car. An hour later, I stood in the pristine, silent showroom of the luxury automotive dealer. The salesman approached, eyeing my worn shoes. I looked past him to the back of the showroom at a car the color of a deep midnight red wine. That one, I said, pointing to the Rolls-Royce Phantom. I will take it. Ma'am, that vehicle is... I know what it is. And I will be paying in full via wire transfer from my account at First United Private Bank. Please call Michael Sorrentino to verify. I would also like a driver for the day. A professional. The man's demeanor changed in an instant. Next, a personal stylist. A woman named Margot who had dressed senators' wives and tech billionaires. I walked into her atelier and she did not blink at my canvas bag. I need a dress, I told her. For a wedding I was told not to attend. I need to look like I own the building they are getting married in. She smiled a sharp, understanding smile. I have just the thing. That night I stood in my modest bedroom, now housing a garment bag, holding a dress that cost more than my first house, and the keys to a machine that represented pure, unadulterated power. I felt no thrill, only a deep, solemn resolve. I lit a single candle on the mantel next to Peter's photograph. Forgive me, Peter, I whispered, but our girl is lost in the woods. I have to send in the cavalry, even if the noise scares her. The Riverside Pavilion was nice, but it was not the Grandview Manor. You could feel the downgrade in the air, a subtle panic humming beneath the surface of the event. The flowers were slightly less lavish, the string quartet a trio. Guests milled about their conversations laced with confused whispers. Why the last-minute change, I heard someone ask. I stood at the edge of the manicured lawn, watching from a distance. My driver, James, held the door of the Phantom open. The deep red of the car looked like a drop of blood on a green silk sheet. I took a deep breath, adjusted the simple, devastatingly elegant slate-gray column dress Margot had chosen. The only jewelry I wore was my grandmother's Art Deco diamond necklace, a piece I had never once taken out of the vault. Showtime, I murmured to myself. The car purred up the gravel drive. Every head turned. A Rolls-Royce Phantom of that vintage and condition was not just a car. It was an announcement. James came around, opened my door. I placed my hand in his and stepped out. For a moment, there was a hush. Then the murmuring started again, louder, more confused. Who is that? I saw them then. The wedding party was posed near a rose arbor, Gregory handsome and stiff in his morning coat, Elise beautiful but pale in her Vera Wang gown, and Eleanor in a flurry of champagne-colored lace. Gregory's smile froze. His eyes widened, then narrowed, trying to compute the data before him. The car, the dress, me. It did not compute. Eleanor's mouth fell open into a perfect little O. But it was Elise's face that I locked onto. Her expression moved from confusion to shock, to a dawning, horrific recognition. Mom, the word was a breath lost in the wind. I began walking toward them, my heels sinking slightly into the soft grass. The crowd parted. I felt every eye on me, but I only saw the three of them. Gregory recovered first, stepping forward, a false, nervous laugh escaping him. Alma. What is this? Some kind of joke? Did you hire a car for the day? The effort is touching, but really this is not the time. I stopped a few feet from him. I offered him the same cold smile he had given me in the cafe. No joke, Gregory, I just thought I would stop by. You see, I was thinking about what you said. About beggars having no place at a wedding. He flushed. Now look. And it struck me as odd. I continued, my voice calm and clear, carrying in the sudden quiet. Because I was reviewing some financials this week. The $10 million gift from the family trust. The one you were counting on to start your fund. The one you had Elise ask me about borrowing from last month. It seems there has been a terrible misunderstanding. His face went from red to white. What are you talking about? I am talking about the fact that I am not a beggar, Gregory. I am the benefactor. And my funding has been canceled. A gasp went through the crowd. Elise's hand flew to her mouth. Eleanor looked like she might faint. You are lying. Gregory spat out, his composure shattered. You are a sad, deluded old woman who put you up to this. At that moment, Robert, who had been waiting by the car, walked forward. He was in a Savile Row suit, carrying a briefcase. He handed Gregory a business card. My name is Robert Sterling of Winslow & Associates. I am the trustee and manager for the Winthrop Family Trust, of which Alma is the sole controlling beneficiary. Everything she has said is accurate. The transfer has been halted. Permanently. The silence was absolute. You could have heard a petal drop from the roses. Gregory stared at the card, then at Robert, then at me. The realization dawned on him, ugly and complete. The modest house, the old car, the volunteer job, it was all a facade. And he, the great evaluator of worth, had appraised a masterpiece as junk. He turned on Elise, his voice a venomous hiss. You knew. You and your family set me up, you pathetic grifting. That was all it took. That pivot from greed to blame, that instantaneous attack on the woman he claimed to love. Elise flinched as if struck, and in her eyes I saw the glass shatter. The glittering fantasy evaporated, leaving behind the small, mean, desperate man she was pledging her life to. The scene unraveled with a swift, terrible grace. Gregory's shout hung in the air, raw and ugly. Elise stumbled back a step, the veil on her hair suddenly looking like a shroud. The gathered guests were a frozen tableau of shock and morbid fascination. No, Elise whispered, her voice breaking. No, I didn't know, Mom. You never said. That is because it was never about the money. Elise, I said, my voice finally softening as I looked at my broken daughter. It was about him. And look at him now. Gregory was unraveling. He pointed a shaking finger at me. This is a conspiracy. You ruined everything. My investors. My fund. Your fund was built on a lie, Gregory, I said calmly. The lie that you deserved it. The lie that you were marrying my daughter for who she is, and not for what you thought you could get. Eleanor found her voice a shrill, cutting thing. How dare you, you deceitful woman! You came here to humiliate us! I turned my gaze to her. I came here to attend my daughter's wedding, Eleanor. You were the ones who said I had no place. I am simply occupying the space you so carelessly vacated. The wedding planner, a harried-looking woman, was wringing her hands. Mr. Thorne, the ceremony. We are behind schedule. There will be no ceremony, Gregory snarled, tearing at his bow tie. This is a farce. He threw one last searing look of pure hatred at Elise. You are just like her. Worthless. With that, he stormed off the lawn, heading toward the parking lot. Eleanor, after a moment of stunned hesitation, shot me a look of pure venom and hurried after her son. The spell over the guests broke. Murmurs erupted into full conversations. Some people began to quietly gather their things, awkwardness driving them away. Others stayed openly watching the drama unfold. Elise stood alone in her wedding dress, trembling. The tears were flowing freely now, streaking her carefully applied makeup. I walked to her, ignoring the stares. I stopped an arm's length away. Come home, sweetheart, I said, my own eyes filling. She looked at me, truly looked at me for the first time in years. She saw the woman in the expensive dress. Yes. But I hope she also saw the pain in my eyes, the love that had compelled this brutal public lesson. With a ragged sob, she crumpled forward. I caught her holding her as her body shook with grief and shock and humiliation. "Let us go," I murmured into her hair. I guided her a vision of ruined white satin toward the waiting Rolls-Royce. James held the door. I helped her inside, then slid in beside her. As the car pulled away from the crumbling wedding, I did not look back. I held my daughter's hand, and she clung to mine like she was drowning. The drive was quiet, save for her hiccuping sobs. When we turned onto our familiar tree-lined street, she spoke, her voice small and shattered. "Why? Why didn't you ever tell me?" I looked out at our little house, the chipping paint, the messy garden. "Because your father and I wanted you to have a normal life. To be loved for your mind and your heart, not for a bank account. We thought if you grew up without it, you would never learn to rely on it. We thought it would protect you." "It did not protect me," she cried. "It made me blind. I thought you were struggling. I felt sorry for you. And all the while, Gregory was only with me because he thought I was a project, a charity case he could mold, and then he would have access to whatever this is. How could you let me be so stupid?" "You were not stupid, Elise. You were in love. And I failed you. I gave you the wrong tools. I taught you humility, but I did not teach you how to spot when someone mistakes it for weakness. I hid the truth so well, I made the fake gold look real." The car stopped. We sat in the driveway of the home she grew up in, the place of safety that had become, in its own way, a cage of my making. "What happens now?" she asked, wiping her face with the back of her hand, smearing mascara. "Now I said you come inside, you take off that dress, and we start over." With the truth. The weeks that followed were a slow, painful thaw. Elise moved back into her old room. The wedding dress hung in the back of my closet, a ghost of a future that never was. We did not talk about the money at first. We talked about Gregory, about the little put-downs she had brushed off, the isolation from her friends. He had encouraged the way he had slowly made her feel that her own family was an embarrassment. She saw it all now with a clarity that was brutal. I started to teach her. Not just about the trust, the investments, the real estate holdings, but about the philosophy behind it. I showed her Peter's journals, his thoughts on stewardship over ownership. We met with Robert, and he walked her through the portfolios, not as an heiress, but as a student. She was angry at first, resentful of the secret. But as the shock wore off, a new determination took its place. She quit her marketing job, the one Gregory had helped her get. She started volunteering with me at the library, but with a new purpose. She began a blog, anonymously at first, about financial literacy for young women, about recognizing emotional manipulation disguised as love. The gossip about the wedding, of course, was epic. News of Gregory's collapsed fund and his professional disgrace trickled back to us. I felt no satisfaction in it. It was just a natural consequence, like a building crumbling after you remove its foundation. The money had been the foundation of his interest, and when it vanished, so did he. One afternoon we were planting tomatoes. The sun was warm on our backs, our hands deep in the dark soil. It was so normal, so utterly unlike the life in that ivory wedding invitation. "I am sorry, Mom," Elise said, not looking up from the seedling she was patting into place. "For everything, for not seeing you, for not defending you." I wiped my brow with my arm. "I am sorry too, honey, for keeping you in the dark. I thought I was giving you freedom, but I was really just keeping you ignorant. There is a difference." She sat back on her heels. "What do we do now? With all of it?" "We live," I said. "We use it to live well and to do good. But we never let it define us. Your father used to say that wealth is not about what you have, but about what you cannot be bought with. Gregory tried to buy you with a fantasy, and you, my darling, are not for sale." She smiled, then a real, if weary, smile. It was the first one I had seen since the cafe. The Rolls-Royce. I sold it last week. It was ridiculous. The money is now the Peter Winthrop Memorial Scholarship for first-generation college students studying literature. That felt right. Elise laughed, a genuine sound that warmed me more than the sun. So no more shocking entrances. No more need for them, I said. Now she is seeing someone. A history teacher named Ben. He came over for dinner last week and spent an hour talking with me about my pressed flower collection. He drives a sensible hatchback, and his watch tells the time and nothing else. He looks at Elise like she invented the moon. She looks at him like she is finally seeing another person, not a reflection of her own desires. As for me, I still live in my little house, but I am not hiding anymore. I joined the board of the Library Foundation. I am using my voice and, yes, my resources to make changes I care about. The quiet life is still my choice, but now it is an informed one, not a disguise. So that is my story. A story about how a phrase meant to exclude became the key to unlocking a prison of my own making. Have you ever had a moment where you realized you were pretending to be less than you are just to make someone else comfortable? What did you do? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this journey from a quiet kitchen to a shattered wedding and back to a peaceful garden resonated with you, please give this video a like. It lets me know these stories matter. And if you want to join me for more conversations about family forgiveness and finding your true worth, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening. Wherever you are, whatever you are wearing, remember this. Your value is not a price tag to be appraised by others. It is a light you carry within. Never let anyone tell you to dim it so their own can seem brighter. Be well, my friends.